本日はアップルで長年第一線を走り、現在は日本食に合うワイン作り、ワインブランドを立ち上げましたザンダーソーレンさんにお話を伺います。ザンダーさん、よろしくお願いいたします。
よろしくお願いします。Thank you for having me.
ザンダーソーレンワインズは日本料理のために生み出されたワインということですけれども、ザンダーさんが日本に強く惹かれた原点はどこにあったんでしょうか。
So I think there were two moments that attracted me to Japan. I think one was when I was a child and one when I was an adult. So when I was a child, we got some old Japanese programming on TV. So there was one show, I think in the US we call it Ambassador Magma or Magma Taishi. And the other one is, we called it Voltron in English, and I think in Japan it was Gorayon. I love technology, I loved science fiction. So when I saw this family, and they could turn into rockets basically and fly. And then when I saw these lion-like robots and they could kind of come together into a giant robot, it just said like, I've never seen anything like this before. And they all obviously came from Japan, so that sparked something in me. So my father introduced me to the films of Kurosawa. So I really loved Ran, Seven Samurai, Tsubaki Sanjuro were some of my favorites. So the first miniseries of Shogun, where I was introduced to now my favorite actor, Toshiro Mifune. So that was kind of an early introduction to Japan. Of course, I loved Japanese food when I was young, but it wasn't until I was an adult and I came to Japan and I realized I've really never had Japanese food in my life because the food here is kind of at a different level. So my adult impression of Japan was just how wonderful the people are. Everybody is very polite and orderly. The train system here is amazing. And I also really appreciated the attention to detail. So all the things growing up with design and loving things like Japanese woodblock prints and even ceramics. So I studied a little bit of Japanese art and history in college. So I feel like there was something always pulling me towards Japan and Japanese culture. And then when I became an adult, I realized, yeah, this is a passion of mine.
日本食に合うワインを作りたいという発想はいつ頃どんなきっかけで考えられたんですか?
Yeah, so when I started traveling to Japan, of course, one thing foreigners love doing is getting great sushi and having a traditional sushi experience. And I would always think when you have sushi, you're going to have beer and you're going to have sake, nihonshu. And my friend took me to a very special restaurant, a sushi in Kyoto, and he said, so the Taisho here is also a sommelier. And he goes, I want to introduce you because he compared Pinot Noir with sushi. And I was really fascinated by that. So we had this wonderful meal with sushi and Pinot Noir, which I love drinking because I live in California. And I was so inspired by the possibilities. And I always tell people that the ideas that I get from my wines are not my own. I learned them in Japan from Japanese. So it was actually the sushi chef who taught me that, no, of course, Nihonshu is great with sushi, but Pinot Noir is one of the most versatile grapes. It's thin-skinned, it can be made in a very elegant way, and it can be very supportive of cuisine. So that led me to see if we could work with our beautiful California vineyards that are located on the coast. So when you're on the coast, you get cooler climate. Pinot Noir loves the cooler climate, the colder nights, the ocean influence. And so I crafted it in a style that is inspired by Burgundy. The other things that we do is we pick earlier in the season, in the harvesting season for the grapes, because that allows the acidity to be higher and get this beautiful vibrant acidity, but lower alcohol. The later you pick, then you get the bigger sugars, the bigger flavors, higher alcohol. So it's a balance. And for a wine that pairs with food, you don't want that high alcohol, you want the really nice acidity and lower alcohol. So that was our approach. And as I started bringing those wines as a hobby and a test to Japan, the sushi chefs and sommeliers really were surprised and appreciated that and kind of encouraged me to keep developing it.
先日試飲会で赤白ロゼを飲ませていただきましたけれども、その時おっしゃっていた一つの特徴がソルティということでしたよね。味わいの軸というのは何かこだわりがあるんでしょうか?
So when I set out to create a wine for Japanese food, I started with my own palate. I figured I love Japanese food, I love wine, so let me try to find the flavors that I like as a starting point. And what I did is I have a friend who's a winemaker, and he prepared 8 bottles from different wine regions for me. And I tried them all blind. And I picked 2 that were from the central coast of California. So California is kind of the size of Japan. So you have the north, we call like Sonoma Coast. I always tell people that that would be like Kanazawa in Japan. And then you have south in Santa Barbara, that could be like Fukuoka, like same driving distance, between the 2. And so I picked the ones that were a little bit more in the south, and those were kind of my favorites. So that was, first test. The next year, he presented 8 more, same vineyards, different vintage. And I picked the exact same 2. So something was speaking to me about those vineyards, and what I realized is, in the Central Coast, instead of going north-south on the coast, there's one moment in California that goes east-west, and that changes everything. So you get a totally different ocean influence, and it brings in this ocean sea spray, saline, shio kind of flavor. You can even get nori flavors in that, and all those flavors are perfect for umami, because Japanese cuisine is built around umami. So I learned that this region called Santa Rita Hills is perfect for crafting wines that pair with Japanese food because they're so supportive of umami. So I figured if I could make an elegant Pinot Noir that could pair with dashi, or could pair with like sushi like nigiri or sashimi, then I was on a good path and direction.
ワイン単体の完成度とお料理と合わせた時のワインの完成度というのはどちらを起点に考えられますか？
Yeah, so that's a good question because there are certainly different approaches to making wines. Some people like to make a casual wine that you can just open, drink by the glass on its own. And the other is food-friendly wines. And that's what I focused on. Since it's a Japanese food-focused wine brand, we want to support the flavors of Japanese food. And Japanese food is very elegant. So it can easily be overpowered by the wrong kind of wine. So if a wine is too fruity, if it's too powerful with alcohol, it's going to overpower and not complement the food. So we make our winemaking style a little bit differently. We pick our fruits earlier than most wineries would, and that basically you're choosing between picking later for higher sugars and higher alcohol, or you're picking earlier where you get a lot of bright acidity. So yeah, so we lean towards the acidity side of things. We also work with French barrels. So we look at Burgundy as an influence and how they have minimal intervention or light touch to their winemaking, with the idea that the vineyard has this beautiful terroir and you want to respect the grape and have basically the grape be transparent when it comes across in the wine. So having wines that are lower alcohol, high acidity, and really respect the nature and the terroir of the site is something that I think supports that elegant Japanese food and doesn't overpower it.
赤のピノノワールですけれども、カリフォルニア産の赤とはまた違う重すぎない力強さのようなものを感じたんですけれども、この赤の個性というのをザンダーさんはどのように表現されますか？
Yes, so when you pick earlier and you get that beautiful, vibrant acidity and you get the lower alcohol, the other thing we really try to get is like a hanayaka style. So I find even if I drink Nihonshu, I always ask for hanayaka style. And my winemaker, Shalini, is really known for beautiful, floral, delicate, elegant wines. In fact, a lot of Japanese sommeliers say that our wines remind them of Shambol Musini because of those aromatics. So I think there's something about the first impression of the wine comes from the nose in the glass, and then that kind of sets the expectations for what the wine will taste like. But then on the palate, then it kind of reveals all the flavors, and then when you add that to the food, it's this, layer upon layer, and then they combine together to hopefully create something that did not exist independently.
華やかさという点ではロゼの美しさと、あとは芯がある味わいにすごく驚いて、これまで飲んだロゼの中で一番美味しいと感じたんですけれども、このあたりはどんな風に設計をされてらっしゃるんでしょうか？
I'm very happy to hear that you feel that way. So there are 2 different approaches to making rosé. There are a couple different paths you could take. One is a really, really light, casual style. So we kind of say in the US like a summer sipper, something you can have by the beach or by the pool. And it's just designed to have on its own very, very low alcohol, super, super light color, and it's relaxing. It's great. It's kind of an easy, casual wine. My wine brand is built around gastronomy, so it's always about supporting fruit. And when I talk to chefs, the kinds of rosés they like are having structure, because they want to think of like, how is the rosé going to pair with their food, and what are some interesting things that they can do. So the approach we took to our rosé is, first we start with a Saignée style. So we make Pinot Noir, so our rosé is a rosé of Pinot Noir. And first, Saignée means to kind of bleed off and pull off the existing Pinot Noir before it goes through its whole winemaking process. So we start by taking a little bit of Pinot Noir out, and that's going to give it a rich color. Then we also pick some vineyards early just for the rosé. So when you pick earlier, again, higher acids, but then the color would be a little bit lighter. And we found that people liked our first rosé having that rich, beautiful color. So we would macerate it overnight on the skins, so it has contact with the skin, and then they're eventually combined together. And so what we have is, again, a lower alcohol style with structure from a little bit that skin contact, and then the beautiful colors. A lot of people get like strawberry kind of notes. And of course, we designed the label of the bottle to look like sakura, because it's sakura season. Yeah, so far the response has been really, really great to it among chefs and diners.
ボトルのデザインもとても素敵ですけれども、まずはボトルの色もカラフルですし、ロゴが家紋のようなデザインでとてもこだわりを感じました。このデザインで最も大切にされていることは何ですか？
So when creating my wine brand, the number one most important thing is that the wine has to be great. So that's the starting point. But I also grew up in an atmosphere in a household with another great designer, which was my father, and he's a famous industrial designer who actually developed the very first flip phone. So it was nice to have a very creative father as an inspiration. And then in my professional career, I worked for a company that is also known for great design. So I think it was a chance for me to say, we've got a great product, we're making a great wine. How can we make a visual identity that connects people to something and has it feel like something more? So yes, it started with the logo, which it kind of, people say it feels Japanese. And the idea there is that I love kind of the Japanese history and the Sengoku Jidai period and Edo period. So not only like the outfits and the fashion and the kimono, which I think are absolutely beautiful, but the family crest of the samurai and the kamon. So it started with that for inspiration, but of course a modern version of that. And we started that with, because I mentioned before, we do a Hanayaka style brand. So we found a flower that's the shape of an X, like Xander, and that the kamon was built around that. And the next touch that I wanted to do is talk about my love of music and have some hidden meanings, again, multiple layers. When you taste a wine, there's layers. When you look at the logo, we like to think that there are layers there too. So sometimes people see like a speaker cone in the middle and kind of radiating sound waves. And some people see like the old vinyl turntable inserts. And then actually, talking about my father being a designer, he made a really beautiful touch that the outer logo used to be a circle. And he said, well, what if the flower broke that outer circle and created tension and something interesting? And what that left is what looks exactly like a roof line of like a temple in Kyoto. So I feel like it was this great combination of just describing the wine being Hanayaka, my music background, and also sharing my love of Japanese culture and history. So the first step was designing this logo, and then it was designing the brand identity across all the bottles. And my inspiration came from Japanese nature. So if you look at all of my labels, if it's a colorful label, it means I'm blending together different vineyards. So now I had to pick like, what's the best color for different things? So I started with my travels across Japan and the things I loved. So my green label is Momiji, the Japanese maples. And my favorite part of Momiji is in November, when all the trees start changing colors into red.
Right.
So we used the red Momiji for another wine. Of course, we mentioned for rosé, we used Sakura. And then we just introduced a yellow label, Chardonnay, and that's inspired by Icho, the ginkgo tree, and how that turns beautiful, like kind of yellow and orange. And then the last thing is having these beautiful bottles that represent Japanese nature, I feel like they need to travel around Japan with me. So I want to be there on the journey, and it lets me go to some of my favorite places around the country, setting up bottles and taking photos in just the most beautiful places from Tokyo, Fukuoka, Hokkaido, Kanazawa. We've been supported by many luxury hotels where we can set up bottles. So that part was very personal to me because it allowed me to travel in the country that I love, but show these bottles in just such beautiful and interesting places. So I found when people see the bottles, they don't necessarily understand all those stories and the details, but it speaks to people on an emotional level. They see that something special has been crafted, and that makes me very happy.